Hi, everybody. This is Professor Spears, and welcome to another episode of Human Services in Northwest Indiana. I'm very pleased to have as my guest Michelle Allstatter, and she is a student of mine. And in honor of Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, she is my guest. She's got a story about a loss, a tremendous loss that she has experienced. And I'll have her tell her story, but before I do, I want to give some context. So I've got some statistics, and from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, just in the state of Indiana in the year 2022, we had 1,152 suicides, and that comes out to a rate of 16.4 per 100,000 in the population. And from the National Institute of Mental Health, suicide came up as being the 11th leading cause of death in the United States overall, and more than 48,100 people were lost to suicide in 2021, and nearly two times as many suicides happened in our country as homicides. So in suicides, we had 48,183. Homicides, we had 26,031. So we hear all the time about the homicides and people feeling unsafe, but we've got twice as many people who are losing their lives to suicide. And that shows how much stories like we're going to hear need to be told, because the toll it's taking on the country is it's not matched by the response and support that we're getting in the community. And then the last couple statistics that I want to share with you, broken down by age group. For children ages 10 to 14 and young adults ages 25 to 34, suicide is the second leading cause of death. And for those 15 to 24, it is the third leading cause. And for those 35 to 44, it's the fifth leading cause. So obviously, this is a big social problem that we have, and it needs to be dealt with. And I'm very grateful that Michelle's here and is willing to share the story of what she and her family and her daughter have gone through. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle and let her fill you in on what she has experienced.
Thank you, Professor Spears. I am so grateful that you've asked me to do this today. Yeah, I just want to say one thing about all your statistics. You said we are so lopsided when things are being put on TV that they're saying about people killing one another, homicides and stuff. We just had a school shooting the other day in Georgia. And so, that's all seen. But the sad thing is you have so many people committing suicide that is never spoken about. It's like it has a stigma over it so bad. And mental health is another one that's so stigmatized so horrendously that and that's the sad thing. Mental health can be anything. You could have lost your job. You could have had your home burned down. You could have had a bad test score as a student. You could have lost a relationship, a friendship, or whatever. There's so many different things that can do something to you mentally. It's not that you have schizophrenia or bipolar or anything like that. And I think that's what a lot of people assume, that mental health is that you have a issue, you have a problem you're taking medicine for, or, you have an issue. And it's not that. Um it can be anything. And so, being that's what I just said, my daughter was her name is Zora. We adopted her from China in 2006. She Oh my gosh, it was amazing. She's was an awesome kid. She was a honor roll student, one of the top two kids in her graduating class. She tutored 30 to 40 kids a month on her own all the time to help kids. She self-taught herself by watching YouTube videos to play 6 different instruments and could play them really fluently. And then she would turn around and teach anyone to play themselves. She would do things with the kids all the time, helping them for free, because she was a lot like me. Well, when you're raised by somebody, you kind of take their personality somewhat too. And she loved people like I love people. So that shone hugely through her. She was the captain of her soccer team, and no one seen this coming. None of her friends, not us, nothing. And so, this was February 11th, 2021, and I had went into her room before we left. We were going out to do some DoorDash deliveries with my older daughter, and I went into her room and I said, "Hey, we're leaving. Are you sure you don't want to go?" And she said, "Nope. I have a test to study for." And she had her computer up on her lap and her book and everything sitting there. And I said, "Okay." I said, "I love you." And I said, "Now, you got to go the next time because, we bought you a vehicle and this is the way you pay us back." And she goes, "I know, I know." She was real responsible anyway. So me reminding her didn't need to be done, but I'm a mom. So,
Sure.
and I love my kids. So I, we left. I ended up talking to her about 6 o'clock that night. We left. This was about four, probably 4 o'clock, so in that area. And about six, I called her and said, "Hey, we're on a 2 hour delay for school tomorrow." I said, "I figured that would make you happy." My older daughter was already with me, and she was a senior in high school, and Zora at the time was a junior in high school. So Evie was already cheering in the car that she was on a 2 hour delay for snow and stuff. And then Zora was kind of happy about it too, because I personally spoke to her. And Evie had messaged her probably about an hour or two later, asking her if she could borrow something of hers. And Zora responded yes, and to come into the room and get it when we came home. Well, we ended up staying out a little bit longer because we were doing so well with our DoorDash deliveries that night. And we texted her again and told her we were staying out a little bit longer. We ended up coming home about 9:30, and we went ahead and let the dogs outside because I figured let's get them out and we can go in the house and then be done. And so her doggie was sitting outside of her bedroom door. And so I went to go put her in her bedroom, and Zora had these LED lights that was hanging around her room. I let her get them, and she hung them all around in her room and absolutely loved them things. And out of all the colors, I mean, she could have any color she wanted. She loved red. Red and blue were like her favorite colors, but red was the one that she wanted to use constantly. So when we got home that night, they were on, dimmed, and I had the hallway light on. So when I looked into her room, because I didn't want to turn her big overhead light on to be respectful, I seen I'm looking and I'm like, "Zora, what are you on the floor for?" So I go over, and there's a lot of times that she would mess with me. Like one time, as an example, I asked the kids to get all their bedding together. This was when they were younger. And so they had this huge pile on the floor in their bedroom. So I come in to get it. And next thing, Evie, she's on her bed and Zora's not in there. And I'm thinking nothing about it because, she could have been in the laundry room. She could have been wherever in the house. So I bent over to pick it up, and the next thing she grabs my leg, and I screamed. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, get out of this stack of clothes!" Evie was trying not to laugh the whole darn time that this was going down. I mean, she had set me up for failure right then. So, I mean, these are things that Zora would do that were funny. And she just had such a good sense of humor about her, like me. And that was something she did. So I thought, you know, oh, she's just messing around with me again. I'm gonna walk over, and I got over by her, and I was talking to her, and I'm like, Zora, get up off the floor, and she's not moving, and I could see something wet on the other side of her, just like a little drop of something wet, and because you could see it from the reflection from the lights, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna back up and go to the door. I flip on the big overhead light, and I see her laying on the floor, and she's in a fetal position laying there. And that was like the beginning of a nightmare. I never figured I would come home and to see this. Me and her would watch all kinds of crime shows. I mean, that was what thing we just lived for to watch all the time. We loved them things. And we would be there going, oh, we know who it is, no, 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 all the story, we're sitting there trying to figure it out. We're being the detectives, like they
Mhm.
can't do it on TV, but we can, at home. And that's what we watched all the time. But when you're in a situation like this, your brain doesn't work that way. I did not see I seen her laying in her fetal position. I seen her arm kind of looked a little kind of like gray looking. And Zora's Chinese, so she's Asian and has the complexion of an Asian, and it just didn't look right. And I hollered at Evie, and Evie come to the door and wouldn't come any further, and started blood curdlingly screaming. And she goes, I'm calling 911 right now, because I had wanted her to help me. In my mind, I thought Zora had just hurt herself. She fell or something, and I didn't see the whole image in front of me. And like I said, huge crime person, but shoo, it was gone out of my mind when I seen this. And Evie goes to call 911, and I turn and look back at Zora, and when I do, she has one of our rifles sticking out from underneath of her. She actually shot herself up through her nose and killed herself. Um, they said she died immediately. I felt absolutely horrible. Um, my girl wanted to do, she, for the longest while, she wanted to be a zoologist. And I told her, I said, well, we're 4-H leaders. I'm going to have you learn to do handle guns, how to handle them safely, take them apart, clean them, and everything else. I want you to learn the proper stuff. I want you to also know how to, if you're tranquilizing something or whatever you need to use your gun for, I want you to be safe doing it. And she knew she could do. Oh my goodness, she was like one of the top shooters that we had as a kid. Um, she was so accurate. She could be blindfolded and take the gun apart, put it back together, and it would be perfect. She knew her safeties. She taught younger kids the safeties. She did it all, but yet that's what she used to kill herself. Um, that just makes you feel absolutely horrendous, because that's not what you ever thought would happen. And then I thought, you have failed your child. And I didn't fail her. I was giving her the necessary um, things that I felt she needed in life. I was giving her skills that I thought she would need to further go for her education of being a zoologist. She ended up changing. She was going to go to IU in Bloomington and be in the Air Force Academy or the Air Force there in the ROTC program. That's what she was going to end up being in. So she would have still been using a gun. It would just been in a different fashion and stuff. But um, you just don't know what's going on in somebody's head. Later on, about 3 days later after she had done this, um, the sheriff's department had taken excuse me, had taken her phone, and we had found a paper laying in her room that said it was like on the back of she had a sheet of paper. She had drew or wrote all of her ABCs in cursive, big and little letters. And on the back side of it is like a real thin piece of paper. On the back side of it, real fine, tiny little lettering, wording. She always wrote really tiny on everything. I'd be like this, with paper in front of my face, trying to read it. I'm like, what are you writing here, child? My gosh, can you not get this to be full size? And she had wrote video on phone unlocked. She had left her password for her computer. She said, please post on Insta and Snapchat. I did not do anything in that realm. I just didn't want people to see this. It was bad enough just living through this rather than know there was a video. The sheriff at the time came out and was talking to us and said that they had got into the phone once we had said that there was a letter or paper here. We sent that into the sheriff's department, and he said, I wanted to come out and to tell you that she was wanting to be cremated. She wants to her remains stay with you. She, one of Evie's or Zora's crazy things that she hated was spiders, bugs. And like one day, as an example of her silliness with them, sorry, my computer just slipped. I hear this banging outside. I mean, this is, way before she took her life. And I'm like, I come outside, I'm like, what are you doing? And she's got a shovel hitting the side of our barn. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm killing them spiders. I hate them things, Mom. I'm like, okay, well, the whole neighborhood now knows you don't like spiders because you're out here whacking the side of the barn. She's laughing as she's doing it. And she's like, well, they are dead now. I have got them. So she had wrote or put in her, she did an 11.5-minute video, and in the video she had put in that she didn't want to be buried. She didn't want bugs all over her because she said, how I hate them things. And she's like, ugh. And she did smile at that point. In it, the rest of the time she was just very serious. She had said she was struggling with her sexuality. She and I, about a month prior to this, had a discussion about her sexuality, and I told her, I said, we all have consequences for our actions. And the only reason why I say that is because we go to church, and she had been baptized. And I told her, I said, when you took that responsibility on of being baptized, you took on the responsibility to do what you are being asked to do in the Bible. And I said, and that's not what it necessarily says, but I'm going to still love you no matter what you choose to do. I just know that when I'm out of this world and gone, and you are too, and everybody else, we are going to be possibly stood in front of somebody, God, and he's going to judge us, and he's going to ask us why we did this or what choice we made and why we did it. And we're going to be accountable for it. Just like you would be in front of a judge or a jury, you're going to be accountable for your actions and what you did or said or whatever it is. And this is just with us. And I told her, I said, I love you. I don't care what you do, as long as you're happy and you're fine. That's all I'm going to say to you. And she was upset about what we were talking about. She goes, that's just not fair. And I said, well, do I have rules for you? I'm your mom. Do I have rules for you? Oh, yeah. And I said, well, do you know what the consequences is if I tell you to do something and you do the opposite? What's going to happen? Oh, I'm going to get in big trouble. And I said, well, that's the same way with this, what we're just talking about with the Bible and God and everything else. And I said, he's no different. What the Bible is saying is no different than what your mom is telling you or your dad is telling you. Every one of us have rules and regulations that we can and can't do things, even us adults. When we're working somewhere, you don't do sexual harassment. When you're working someplace, you don't do certain things. When you're out in the public, you don't do certain things because there's consequences for your actions if you do something that's not right. And I said, so this situation here is no different than any other consequence that we all have in this world for our actions. And after I said that, she goes, no, you're right. She goes, no, you're right. Completely right, because that is true. And I told her, I said, I don't care what you do. I don't care who you love, as long as you are here and I can love on you and you're happy. That's all I want in this world, is for you to be happy and have a life that you enjoy. And um this is how it ended. But it's not ended, because after she passed away, within 3 days, we had a scholarship set up for her in her name. It's scholarship for education for high school seniors that graduate from our school district here in this county where she and Evie went to school.
Mhm.
I had that done in 3 days. It was up ready for Evie's graduating class. Um, that year we gave out six $500 scholarships. So far, we have gave out, in the few years now since Laura's been gone, we have gave a total of 22 $500 scholarships to kids for education, to further their education, whether they're going to college or they're going to a trade school or whatever they're doing. I mean, it has to be a school, but it just to help them, give them that leg up. I I work for the school district where she and Evie went to. I've worked for them for almost 11 years, and I know all these kids. And just to know that my daughter can help them further, and what she loved to do was teaching other people, like the schoolwork, the playing of the instruments that she taught them. Just to know that we can give back to these kids and keep doing educating of others is a huge thing for me. It keeps her spirit alive in such an enormous way. I also started a foundation called the Avalon Foundation. It's over a dinosaur that she would draw on everything. She drew this dinosaur on everything. Um, it was funny. One time, here's another funny that she did. One time, we're in school there to do parent teacher conferences at high school. And I have both of the girls with me, and they had us all in the cafeteria at all table stations. You just walked around the tables and you sit down and talk to the teacher. So we get to her English teacher. This was her freshman year. We get to the English teacher, and I know all these workers because, like I said, I've worked for the school district for a long time. And so we're there, and she goes, well, we got a big problem. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at her and I'm like, we're talking about Zora, right? She's like, yeah. And I said, well, what is it? I'm looked at Zora. I'm like, what in the world? This would be your sister. I'm looking at Evie. I'm like, this would be your sister, Evie, not you. What's wrong with you? What did you do this time? And she's over there laughing, and the teacher's just dying laughing. And Evie's over here rolling her eyes at me, shaking her head, going, it's not me this time, Mom. You have to look at Zora. And so the teacher hands me this paper over, and it's a test that or a paper Zora turned in, and it's an A. The grade on it is an A. So I look at the
Mhm.
teacher and I'm like, what is wrong? with this? This is an A. I mean, this is a like actually it's an A plus. I said, so, I mean, what did she do was wrong? She goes, well, I want you to just really look at it. And I'm looking at it and looking at it. And finally I see this little tiny dinosaur that's in the wording in there. She would do find the dinosaur with the teachers. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, child, you are a nut. She's over there just dying laughing, rolling laughing, and so's the teacher. Evie's over here going, oh my goodness, Zora, and we're all of us are laughing. I'm like, oh my goodness, kid, you are hilarious. And so it's just things like that. I miss them. I mean, I have all those memories and I can share them with you and we can laugh about them because it lets me know how much I love that kid. People have also said to me, well, you're grieving a lot and you're still sad after all these years. I'm not sad. I'm There is moments that I will take that back. There is moments that I am a little sad because I don't have her. I don't get to see what else she's doing in her life. I with this here, you can't call someone on the phone. You can't FaceTime them. I can't send her a text. I can't get an email from her with pictures of her life or send her an email. You know, I one of my friends asked me one day, they said, well, how are you doing? And I said, I feel like I've actually got a divorce. And my husband got the custody of Zora, which would have been God. And I can't get to see her though. And I said, that's the most horrendous feeling, is feeling like that. And they were like, oh my gosh, we never heard it described that way. And I said, well, but it is like that because it does make you feel, you can't see her. I can't call her. I can't talk to her. Well, I do talk to her still. I pray every day to God and I thank him for allowing her to be with me, to let me have the privilege of being her mom. I thank him. For a split second after she passed, I was like, why did you do this? Why did you take her back? But then I was like, no, he gave me the greatest gift of love by letting me be her mom. I got to be her mom. Sorry, I'm crying. I got to be her
Okay.
mom from 18 months old to 16, almost 17. And that was the best gift I could have ever got given to me. So I thank him every day for allowing me to have her. And I talk to her every day too. Um, I know she's with me and around me all the time. Um, because I'm carrying her light in this world. I am letting people know that Zora Gian Allstetter lived here. She was breathing. She was somebody. And she was seen and loved. And that's what I want people to know, that she was here. She existed, maybe for a few years, but she was here. And because she was here, her impact is still going to go on and on and on and on and on for years because of all the things that I'm doing. Like right now, the reason why I know Professor Spears is I'm going to college myself. I never went to college before. And, I'm 55. I started this in 2022. And I'm like, huh, I can do this. Well, I was not a very good high school student when I was in school myself, and I was only like a CD student, but I'm an A student, A and B student now, and I'm on the dean's list because I know what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for Zora in order to help other people because I'm doing schooling for social work. I only came into this just to get like a basic things just to help me to be able to know what I'd be having other people do, because I would like to have a business when I'm done. And but now, oh no, I'm looking for another college now. I'm going to go get my bachelor's degree. I'm going to get my master's degree. When I'm done, I'll be a clinical licensed social worker, or a licensed clinical social worker. I'm sorry, I said it the wrong way, but I'm going to be that. And I can be able to help so many people with trauma or with other things that they need. And just to let them know that maybe the darkness that's in their mind from their mental health of something they've lost, or someone, or whatever it is, that darkness, there is light that can come out of it. They can reach out in that darkness, and there's a hand that will grab it and say, walk with me, and I'm going to get you through it. And that's what we all need. Everybody needs to know that they're seen in this world. Us adults do too, just as much as these kids do. They all need to be seen, because not being seen by people, and I'm not meaning that you just look at them and you see them. You have to see someone for what they bring to the table. You have to be able to see them for who they truly are, just not to be looking at them. And then you have to appreciate that, because so many people don't appreciate what somebody else brings to the table. They don't care what you do. Because you're just taking up space from them to be able to do what they want. And that's
Yeah.
not the way this world is, and it shouldn't be that way, because they wouldn't want that done to them. They wouldn't want someone to be looking at them like, you're taking up oxygen that I could breathe because you're in this world. You have to see other people and appreciate and love them for who they are, and accept them for who they are, because this life is so short. Believe me, I know. My 16-year-old daughter's gone, and it is very short. And it's you have to go out and live. My philosophy anymore is live, 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 live. Love who you want to love. Do what you want to do, because there is no tomorrow promised for any of us.
Right.
And this is the thing. But mental health is a big thing. Suicide is a huge thing too. And people need to share that with one another, and to let people know it's it's it is bad. I mean, there's issues with it for the people that's going through it, but
Right.
you can get help. That way somebody doesn't have the mental health struggles. You can get help, that maybe someone might not commit suicide. I mean, some of the biggest people that commit suicide in this country, unfortunately, are our military. And that to me is a very sad thing. Those people have gave their lives to protect us, to allow us to have the freedoms that we have in this country. And I want to be their voice too, because everyone deserves to have someone be their voice, to stand up for them when they might be weak and can't, because there's going to be a point that they can stand up for themselves. And they have stood for us when they've gone to protect us in another country or here in this country. They have stood tall doing that. And so, but yeah, I mean, I started, I wanted to do this, all of this, just to save one person. I think in the end, I'll save way more than one person, because of me being who I am. I'm crazy like my daughter was, with all the silliness that she did, but in this world, you have to be a little crazy, I think, sometimes, just to get through
I
the day,
I
and
think there's a lot of truth to that.
yeah, you have to. But you have to have a good sense of humor about things too, because life can be so sad, especially when you're in a situation like this. This totally turned my life completely upside down. It was just, I would have never went to college. I would never be doing what I'm doing now. I wouldn't be sitting in front of you, Professor Spears, because I would have never got to meet you because I wouldn't have come to college, you know.
Mhm.
And so I think that it's bad and it's sad that this happened, but there's goodness that's going to come out of it. There's goodness because she's still going to be known in this world. She's still going to be a part of this world, whether she's physically here or not, because I'm carrying her through this world. And I guess I'm carrying a 120-pound kid with me, which what she was. Um, and I tell you what, I'd carry her 120 pounds any day around in this world for the rest of my life to know that she was here. But
Absolutely. And there are a couple of themes that I picked up on
okay.
as you told your story, and
Hmm.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on those.
Okay.
And one, you've been talking about, really from before you mentioned the point of death, but it seems as though part of what has helped you get through this tragedy is finding and creating meaning in her life. And as you just said, she people are going to know that she existed in this world.
Exactly.
And it seems to me that we need to help people, just generally speaking, and this is not a Michelle thing, this is a
Yeah.
society thing.
Hmm.
I think that we need to really make sure, and I'm sure that you did this, knowing you as I do,
Yeah.
but we need to make sure that we let our kids and our loved ones know how much they mean to us and the difference that they make in the world, and that the world's a better place for their having been there,
Exactly.
because that helps them get through their issues, because everybody has issues.
Oh, yeah, they
And
do.
and that ties into the second thing that you mentioned. You didn't spend as much time talking about it, but I found it very powerful, where when you were talking about Zora physically being gone and how that is forever.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes, it
young
is.
people in particular, I think, have a hard time comprehending the enormity of forever.
Mm.
And
They
that,
definitely do because I work with kids at school. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, I have worked with the kids, from school, and I do see that. But now that they've been around me, and seeing how I've been, because I've worked in the school as a cook, so these kids see me firsthand from the time Zora passed away. And I had to be strong for them. I had to show them that they could get up off the ground too and stand up and be strong and walk forward, because her death didn't end everybody else's lives. Her
right,
death ended her life, unfortunately. And we have to carry on. Like, I have people tell me all the time, you are so amazingly strong to be doing what you're doing. And there's days that you have not seen me. I have fell to my knees and I have cried. There's days that I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what in the world are you doing, you crazy lunatic woman? I can't believe you're doing this, but you are. And everybody knows you're a crazy lunatic, and yet they still love you, But I know why I'm doing it, because at school, kids would call me the kitchen counselor. Anytime they needed something, they'd come and speak to me. They knew I loved them very much. And I have told them since this has happened that I'd never leave them, and I will not leave them. If I have a kid 10 years from now, call me up or come here to my house and say, Michelle, I need you. I need to talk to you. I would still talk to them. I don't care if it's in the middle of the night they come here, or they call me on the phone, or they email me, or they text me. I talk to these kids. I have several kids' phone numbers on my phone that I
Mhm.
talk to still on a regular basis, that's no longer at school. They've graduated. I do things with these kids all the time too. I love them and I want them to know I see them and they matter and they want to be here because they matter to me and they matter to a lot of other people.
Mhm.
Because I think that's a huge thing too. You don't realize the enormity. I get. Don't even know if my redneck language. I'm sorry. I don't know if that sounded right, but because I have redneck English, let me tell you. Woo! And so Zora has told me that millions of times, and she's like, "Mom, you are just a redneck. Just quit talking." And so, but you know, um I don't think they understand how enormous it would be if they were gone. But now that this has happened with Zora and they've seen me and how I'm reacting, they have come to me and said, "Oh my gosh, Miss Michelle, we'd never do this because we know it would hurt you. We'd never take our lives because it would hurt you. And we absolutely love you. And we're here because of you." And
That's wonderful.
we know we have a lot of meaning, and I'm always like they would come to me, and say stuff to me or whatever, they're having an issue or whatever. And they'd
Mhm.
be like, "Well, mom and dad said this." And I'm like, I'm listening and I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm going to tell you the same thing," because your parents are pretty much right. And they're like, "Darn it, I figured you were going to do that." And I'm like, "But they're right." And then when I went to explain it, maybe a little different than their parents did, they were like, "Oh, you are right. They are right." And I'm like, and talk back to them. I said, your parents love you. I mean, this is why you're here. I mean, I've had tons of parents, like after Zora passed away, I did crosswalk for our school district for almost 6 years, and I worked in the kitchens for almost 10 or 11 years. So I've been in all four buildings that we have in our school district, and I know hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the school district, families of kids and everything. And so I've had parents send their kids to me. Go talk to Michelle. If there's an issue at school, we want you to go talk to Michelle. Michelle will help you. She'll let us know what's going on and we'll take care of it. I've had tons of kids come to me. One day at Crosswalk, now I've seen this family all the time because I waved at them. I wave at everybody when I used to do Crosswalk. I no longer work for the school district, but I now stay home and take care of my granddaughter and go to school full time. But I wave at everyone and I would talk to people and people would stop and talk to me constantly all the time at Crosswalk. And because they said that I was a huge strength for them to see. And I also did mental health little things on Facebook and hat posts. I wore all kinds of my baseball caps on my head doing crosswalk, and I had people give them to me. I have about 100 and some baseball caps because I've had so many people walk up and give me them. I said they have to be clean and nice ones. They can't have nothing nasty on them, because I'm working with kids, here at school, and everybody
Right.
would be, really nice about it. But I've had them. I let this one girl come down one day, and like I said, I've seen her family multiple times. I've waved at them, and they would holler out and say, "Hey, have a good day," or whatever, and I would holler at them too, and saying the same thing. And the girl comes down and she goes, "Hi, Michelle." I'm thinking, well, I know I see you, but I don't really know your name. She's, I'm standing there thinking this. I'm like, "Well, hey, how are you?" And she goes, "Mom sent me down. Mom told me to come directly to you, Michelle, and wait with you, and she's gonna pick me up." I said, "Okay." I've had all kinds of kids. I've drove kids home from school, little ones that I've seen their parents multiple times. Um,
Mhm.
you just become like a huge family, and then people see you and see what you going through, and they look at you as a really good example. I've had people come to me and say, "You are one of the most phenomenal examples of how to be after you've lost someone.
Mhm.
We want to embody the strength that you show to all of us and love that you do." But they say we can't do it because we fall short. You have it all and you are so good in doing it. And so but that's just who how I'm made, is to love people and to do what I'm doing. But with the kids, yes, they really do know, because I've told them millions of times how much they matter and how much adults matter. And I love them and this and that, because I don't want them, and I tell them plainly, I don't want you to ever forget what I've told you here. I don't care if, when you're in a dark, bad place, you remember my voice in your ear and head saying how much you are loved and how much you have meaning in this world and that you are seen. I want you to remember it. When you get to your darkest, lowest place, you remember what I've told you, because you have somebody rooting in your corner. You have someone that will give you their hand and pull you up and out of it. Don't ever forget it. I tell this to adults, um, everybody. And when this happened with Zora and she died, um, I mean, this is what we're talking about. I'm so sorry I said that. My brain is like going in like 100 miles an hour here, trying to figure out how I want to say stuff. But I always joke that I have squirrels. They run back and forth in my head, and then I'm like over here talking about one thing, and it's like squirrel. Oh my gosh, I'm over here now. And so you can tell why my daughter has her silly things that she did, because her mother is a silly lunatic. But you know, yeah, I just wanted people to know how much value they have. And that's what I try to do all the time in what I'm doing. And I wanted people to understand that too. I'm sorry I took that off of you. You were, talking and telling me this, and
That's
now I'll be
fine.
quiet. And you can tell me what else you want to say, and then I'll answer it again. I'm so sorry I took over, but
No,
while
don't
I had it in my mind, I
apologize.
thought I better say it to you right now. I'm sorry.
It's quite all right. I was just going to say that we all need to take time to make sure that we let other people know how important they are,
Yes.
how much of a difference they make, because so often as we keep so busy during our day,
Mm,
and just pausing for even a 5-minute conversation each day to tell somebody how much you love them, how proud of how proud you are of
mm,
one little thing that they did each day. All of that matters, and they'll remember that. And suicide, people commit suicide because they don't think that there's another way to end the pain that they're going through.
mhm.
And especially young people, as we'd said earlier, they don't comprehend the enormity of forever. And if we can help them through showing them love and being there and making them a priority in
Mhm.
our lives,
Yep.
that's going to help them get through those dark times. And if we make sure and we show through deeds rather than just words, that they
Exactly.
can say anything that they need to us. Because
Yes.
I don't know how many parents I've heard say, you can tell me anything and it won't matter, but you can tell by the way that they're saying it, there's like this asterisk where, but boy, I'm going to be mad and you're going to get this. And
Yeah,
we just need to, if you want them to know that they can come to you without judgment, you have to model that. And
exactly.
once you do, that really sinks in and makes a difference. And it doesn't always have to be a huge intervention.
Hmm.
And
It can be a smile
I,
on your face. It can be a smile literally on your face and a hello that can make a huge difference for someone.
Mhm.
It's just simple things. So I just wanted to say that while you were saying that because it really does.
No,
It can be simple.
that's so well said. And my son's 23 now, and the last thing that he will make you think that he wants is a hug from his parents or from his grandparents. And we all, play around with that and tease him, but he never gets to leave the house without getting a big hug and an I love you. And, he acts as though, we've given him cooties. We all grew up
Yeah.
with cooties,
I got
but
that. I get that. I understand that concept with people,
exactly,
and how some
exactly.
people act. Like Zora, you're talking about this and a hug. Zora I would go give her a hug because my girls always get hugs and I always kiss
Yeah.
them. I always tell them that I love them. Um,
Mhm.
I will never leave the house. I will never let them go anywhere. I will never go to bed without hugging and kissing them on the cheek and telling them how much I love them. I always do because if those are my last things I do with my kids or what my I did with my two girls all the time, then that's what I wanted them to be left with was my love for them because they mattered to me. And that's what I do with all these kids too. I necessarily won't give them a kiss, but I would give them a hug and I would tell them how much I loved them and cared about them and stuff like that. And to see them go away with these huge smiles on their faces and want to come back and talk to you again and again is a huge thing. But Zora, speaking of hug, Zora, I'd go give her a hug. And she was so darn ticklish that you would hug her and then she'd fall on the floor and she'd be there laughing and giggling. And I'm like, get. And so I'm standing, over her and I'm like, okay, come on. Just get up and get this over with. Let me give you a hug. So
You
she
are
gets up.
getting this hug one way or another.
Yeah, yeah. She gets up and she's standing there. The whole time that you're hugging her, I'm like, would you stop doing that and just let me hug you and love on you? You know, she'd be standing there going, trying to be really stiff, and it was hilarious. I'm like, oh my goodness, child. If people was watching this right now, they would be like, oh my goodness. But yeah, so I get the hug thing. So I understand where you're talking about your son and stuff. Yeah. Cooties
And
and
they're so important, more than most people realize.
oh yeah.
And in the 5 minutes that we have left, Michelle,
Yeah.
if you could speak directly to parents,
Mhm.
and if you've got one thing, either about how they might be able to prevent or lessen the likelihood of a suicide, or how to cope with the aftermath of a suicide, what would you say to them?
Oh gosh, as you're talking, my mind's going like 500 miles an hour here with that stuff. You're saying to me, um, carry their light through this world. If you end up losing them, carry their light in this world, like I'm doing with Zora, keeping her alive, not alive physically, but people know she was here. That's the most horriblest thing is to not know or not feel that your loved one is remembered. And but also to the parents, let them talk to you. Give them the benefit of the doubt sometimes because you want the benefit of the doubt for yourself. So give it to them. Don't go back at them if they're saying something, like, oh my goodness, what are you thinking? That you want to date a girl and you are a girl. Don't go and say that to a boy that wants to date a boy, or the boy that's wanting to date his girlfriend, or the girl that's wanting to date her boyfriend, or whatever it is. Let Give them the benefit of the doubt. You want them to be loved, right? You love them. Then let them love who they want to love. And if it falls apart, well, then that's a learning lesson for them. But just be there. Be that hand that sticks out in the darkness and grabs a hold of them and says, I'm here. I am maybe not always the happiest with you and what decision you're making, but I still love you and that you matter. And I think that's the way everybody needs to be with one another. I mean, if you were ever in a dark moment and you needed somebody's hand, Professor Spears, I'd be right there. I'll drive the 4 hours to come up there and hold your hand and talk to you, because all of
And
us
I
need
know
to
that
know.
you would,
Oh, I
Michelle.
would. Oh, yeah, I would. Yeah, that'd be 4 hours one way and 4 hours come back. But by goodness, I would be up there to do it for you, because we all need to know that we have someone in our corner, because life is a really sad place if you don't have someone in your corner. You're there by yourself, and that is a massive struggle, to be by yourself. And so when you know that someone's in your corner that has the best, they're wanting the best for you. Now, some people, granted, don't want the best for you. They don't care what happens to you. Even parents, I've seen it millions of times sometimes, and I'm sorry to say that, but I worked in a school district and you see everything. And so, and just in general life here, you see all kinds of stuff on TV, about parents that have failed their kid, or a kid that's failed themselves, or adult that's failed themselves, or whatever, but just love them for what they bring to the table. And they may not bring at some points in their lives a huge amount to the table, but eventually they will bring huge amounts to the table, the same as you bring to the table. You get what you reap. If you go out and you want to be a stink butt all the time to somebody else and not be nice, well, then you're going to get that back in your face. Like my dad always told me, if you sling poop, I'm sorry, I grew up on a farm, so we had to, do a lot of hog poop and cow poop, and my dad always said, now, if you you're throwing that, you're going to get some on you. So, I mean, that's in everything. If you're going to send out in this world nasty, negative, hateful stuff, you are going to end up getting it back, and you're going to be eating it, because it's going to come flying back at you. But if you give out love, that's what I do, and that, then that is so much nicer to get back. You're not getting stabbed by it. You're not getting hurt by it. You're just feeling that love. Like, people tell me you radiate love. And well, I guess I do. But
You
again,
do.
that's just how I'm made. And like I said, I'd rather radiate love than meanness. I'd rather love than be hateful. I'd rather not sling something nasty if I don't have to. I'd rather sling something that's loving and kind. So, but
And you
that's
know that that's really a perfect um, message for us to leave people with, because whether we're online or out in the community
Mhm.
or dealing with our families, we need to, as you very well put it, see people, hear them, make them real people,
Mhm.
and be respectful and love them. And I think much of the reason why our suicide rates are what they are is there are too many people who radiate meanness rather than love.
Yeah,
And
and they can't
maybe
find
that's
that
something
hand of love.
else.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something else that you and Zora will help people to um, change, and it'll do a lot more good than probably either of you realize.
I hope it does, because that's what I'm setting out here to do, because I want to throw out the goodness, not the bad, and I that way I can help people. And I know I have a huge amount of people on my side because, like I said, this is my only thing I'm going to say. I'm like this, people see me, so they knew me. Everyone in the school district knew who I was, parents and everything. So I almost felt like I was the spokesperson for the school at this moment, when she passed. But that's a big,
Yeah,
huge thing on your shoulders too, to have people look at you like that. Because I've
yeah,
had people come at me over all kinds of things. Nothing nasty or mean, but just, telling me how good I am being and what a huge, wonderful example I'm giving them of how I'm being in this whole thing. And I
mhm,
think that is a big thing, because you have to make something good out of something bad. And that's what
absolutely.
I'm doing. So
Yes, you are. And I thank you for your time and your openness and making yourself vulnerable for the well-being of other people. That's what's going to make a difference. If you're more real because they've seen your tears and they've heard your laughter, and that's going to make them hear your words all the more.
you will always see real with me, because I am real. You've seen me. This is my third class with you. So you have really seen me be real. So, you know, so yeah, you have to show people you're real too, because then that way it goes, then they know that what you're saying they can do. They can, you're not putting yourself up some high pedestal that you're so much higher than them. You have to be real and on their level. And that's just who I am and what I give out, because I'm not any better than no one else. I'm just me. And I'm Zora's mom. And I loved my kid, and my grief. I grieve like I do because I had so much love for my kid. And so that is a huge thing. When you love someone, you do suffer because they're gone in some ways, in some levels. You suffer from that loss.
Mhm.
So, yeah, thank you so much for asking me. When I got your email, I was like, oh my gosh, Professor Spears. Oh, this is awesome. I'm going to be on this podcast. Woo! I just sat there, and it took me a few seconds. I was like, I could calm down now, and I'll send him a message, just like what you want to say, but thank you
You're
very much
such a
for
goof,
allowing me to do this.
Michelle, and
I know I
that's why
am.
we all love you.
This
So,
is me. But thank you so much for having me do this today. I really appreciate it, because if it helps one person or helps someone understand somebody a little bit more, then it's worth doing this. Or what you can do
absolutely
to help someone. Yeah.
right. Well, I thank you again. And for those watching, when we close here, I will have available with the closing credits resources that you can reach out to, either for someone who is contemplating suicide or friends or loved ones, what they can do to help and how to cope afterwards if it does happen. So we will make that available. And thank you one more time, Michelle. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you too.